Hey, got another interesting one for you. What I find amazing about the cognitive dissonance that you find on the left and the right side of the left versus right paradigm lie is that while they dish out criticisms for the other side, they rarely ever dish out constructive, substantive criticisms for their side. They'll talk about the ick factor of the other side, like Dave Pakman does here regarding Mike Pence.
The ick factor.
But they never talk about the ick factor of the Brian Tyler Cohens or the Midas Touches or the Kyle Kalinskis or anybody on their side. This right here is Brian Tyler Cohen's video that was just released 2 hours ago. It's got over 70,000 views now, called Trump Humiliates Himself in Unhinged Commencement Speech. I would say that if you want to talk in the realm of low-hanging fruit, just go ahead and pick on Donald Trump. He is low-hanging fruit. But then so was Joe Biden. But then so was Kamala Harris. But then if you really think about it, so was Barack Obama, although Barack Obama was a little bit more polished. You know, the presidents of old, actually, even Clinton was far more polished than the presidents that we've seen in the last, 2 or 3 terms. So I want to point out some things that Brian Tyler Cohen says here in response to Trump humiliating himself, which, by the way, Trump usually humiliates himself, but the only Team MAGA who are guzzling and funneling the Kool-Aid don't see it, it seems. Check this out.
Okay, bear in mind when you watch this, this is the Commander-in-Chief speaking with graduates at West Point Military Academy.
A trophy one. It didn't work out too well, but that doesn't work out too well, I must tell you. A lot of trophy wives, doesn't work out. But it made him happy for a little while at least. But he found a new wife. He sold his little boat and he got a big yacht. He had one of the biggest yachts anywhere in the world. He moved for a time to Monte Carlo and he led the good life. And time went by and he got bored. And 15 years later, the company that he sold to called him and they said, the housing business is not for us. You have to understand, when Bill Levitt was hot, when he had momentum, he'd go to the job sites every night. He'd pick up every loose nail. He'd pick up every scrap of wood. If there was a bolt or a screw laying on the ground, he'd pick it up and he'd use it the next day in putting together a house.
And look, I know that many of you may be quick to judge, but these graduates are now walking away with invaluable advice on trophy wives and yachts. Who among us isn't looking for this kind of poignant counsel, especially when it's most relevant, for 21 and 22-year-olds. At this point, why not just delve into a long, winding explanation on, tariffs?
Gone are the days where defending every nation but our own was the primary thought. We are putting America first. We have to put America first. We have to rebuild and defend our nation. And very shortly, you're going to see a nation better than it's ever been. And you see that with the trade. For years, we've been ripped off by every nation in the world on trade. We've been ripped off at the NATO level. We've been ripped off like no country has ever been ripped off, but they don't rip us off anymore. They're not going to rip us off anymore. And you're seeing it. You have to watch what we're doing on trade. I know it's not your primary thing.
That's actually interesting because we have ripped off other countries literally like no other country has ripped off another country, to the tune of trillions upon trillions upon untold trillions of dollars. Remember back in 1944, we set up this thing called the Bretton Woods Accord, where we created, because it was after World War II, and basically we were the victors. And we had all the power. We had the military-industrial complex. Nobody could challenge or rival us. So we set up the world's reserve currency, and at the U.S. dollar pegged to $35 an ounce gold, and all the other countries agreed to it. Well, it wasn't too long after that, 1970, 1971, where people were kind of other countries that we agreed that we would peg the dollar to $35 an ounce gold. We're wondering, how are we able to afford this long, costly, ended up being a failed war that we got into by a lie? Look up the Gulf of Tonkin episode. But how are they able to afford being embroiled in this long Vietnam War? So Charles de Gaulle from France say, you know what, we got to get our gold back. The dollars that we're holding, I bet you anything, it's not holding up to the gold price. And sure enough, he was right. So he sent his fleet across the Atlantic Ocean to pick up their gold, and other countries started doing the same thing. And then what do you know? On August 15th, 1971, Nixon closes the gold window because we were ripping off other countries by printing off currency, more currency than there was gold to cover that currency. People understand. If you understand history, we ripped off other nations like no other nation has ripped off any other nation. You constantly hear Trump saying, you've never heard of this. It's the greatest thing. There's never been anything greater. There's never been an incident like this. Well, you can definitely say that about the Bretton Woods Accord being broken by the United States, having nations holding the bag for dollars that were becoming more and more worthless. So it's really interesting to hear Trump talk about that.
But it's quite important in all fairness. But watch, you'll see what's going on. You've been reading about it over the last few days. We're making deals with other nations that were nobody thought it would be even possible. And the reason is very simple. They respect us again. They're respecting our country again. That's what you want. And everything we do, we are bringing common sense back to America.
I know it's not your primary thing, Trump says to a graduating class of military school graduates while he freewheels about his tariff policy that is sending the United States into a recession. I mean, honestly, we are the only industrialized country in the world to see our economy contract this past quarter. And this guy is on stage bragging about how he's winning. If we want our military to be winners.
And check it out. Brian Tyler Cohen is correct about this. Whatever you think about Brian Tyler Cohen, you've got to divorce yourself from this left versus right paradigm lie. You got to stop going, well, that's not truth because he said it. Or that's not truth because he said it. If Hillary Clinton told you the grass was green and the sky is blue, it's just true. Not because Hillary Clinton said it, but because it's truth. So if you want to ferret out the truth, yeah, the Trump tariffs are not good, and we're going to see that in the coming months as they come to fruition and people start going, whoa, this is crazy business, how expensive things are getting. And it will unfold in the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Just check it out. Just watch and wait and maybe prepare now.
Why are they listening to a guy who is presiding over a losing trade war? Also, you gotta love how Trump says that we're not going to get taken advantage of on trade anymore, suggesting that he is completely redoing our trade relationships. You know how many trade deals Donald Trump has inked since he's been in office? You ready for this? 1. With the UK, a country we have a trade surplus with. That's it. There aren't hundreds of countries clamoring to come to the negotiating table because if there were, you know what we would have? Trade deals. And you know what we don't have? Trade deals. Starting to see through this whole facade that Trump is erecting. And I know what you're thinking. At least it can't be dumber than this. Do I even have to say it?
And they've allowed people to come into our country that shouldn't be here. Criminals walk in, no vetting, no checking, no nothing. Where are they coming?
Yeah, criminals walk in, no vetting, no checking. Like back in 1913, the Federal Reserve just walked right into Washington, D.C. and said, we own the place. You're going to sign this. Congress signed it. Now they own the issuance and value of our currency. Now, I know I say this in every video or every other video, but it's true. And we have to understand that the true evil, if the love of money is the root of all evil and the owners of the issuance and value of your currency, which means they own the product of your time and labor, is the Federal Reserve, then the core of our problems, how we fund wars, how we fund the military industrial complex, how we can fund the drug war and the prison industrial complex and all the bomb dropping and crazy things that we do in the foreign aid. The only way you can fund that is if you have a dishonest currency system, the fiat currency Ponzi scheme system from the Federal Reserve, and those dishonest banksters who own the dishonest politicians, the presidents, the senators, the congressmen, the governors. When you take the blade of that axe and put it at the root of the Federal Reserve Zio central banking cartel tree, everything else falls, because that is the evil that infuses and funds the other evil that we see and that people blindly vote for.
Coming from, and they were taking people out of prisons. They were taking gang members. They were taking the mentally insane and allowing them to come in, and we're getting them out of our country. We have no.
Speaking of the mentally insane.
Choice. We're getting them out and bringing them back where they came from. Have no choice. And
he's going to be sitting in a wheelchair next to Biden one time, and they're going to both be in the old folks' home talking about how they definitely both got together and screwed the American people, but they were able to deepen their own pockets because the Federal Reserve enriched them. They did the bidding of the Federal Reserve, of the IRS. They kept the long and costly wars going, and they didn't take away or abolish the income tax.
Not easy. It's not easy. But hopefully the courts will allow us to continue. You know, we had the greatest election victory. This was November 5th. We won the popular vote by millions of votes. We won all 7 swing states. We won everything. We won 2,750 districts against 505. 2,750 against 505. We had a great mandate, and it gives us the right to do what we want to do to make our country great again, and that's what we're going to do. And
imagine being so insecure that you're already the president of the United States, the most powerful person in the world, and you have to constantly remind people that you won the election. I mean, my God, if anyone watching is ever feeling down about yourself, at least remember that you're not so riddled with self-doubt that you feel the need to remind everyone, everywhere, at every single moment of your life, how great you are. I mean, this is a guy who used to hand out paper maps outlining the counties that he won. If you are in any way even 5% secure, you don't need to constantly remind people with a pulse how great you are.
It is pretty pathetic how much he brags on himself and how great he is. And yet to contrast that with how many times he has actually failed. We went over this on a video just the other day, but his failures are many. Remember the Trump game, Trump Magazine, GoTrump.com, Trump Ice, New Jersey Generals, Trump Fragrances, Trump Mattresses, Tour de Trump, Trump Network, Trump Princess, which was the $29 million yacht that was repossessed by the bank, Trump Steaks, Trump Vodka, Trump University, Trump Entertainment Resorts, Trump Hotels and Resorts, bankruptcy after bankruptcy after bankruptcy, and yet he's constantly talking about how much he's winning. And yet one of the biggest losers, and I'm not just talking about Donald Trump, I'm talking about any political parasite who wants the ring of power to sit behind that desk resolute at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, is one of the biggest losers that you could ever possibly imagine. I'm not talking about just Reagan, but Carter and Ford and Clinton and Obama and Biden.
Which I suppose explains exactly why Trump does. And just for good measure, in case everything wasn't already dumb enough, I present to you the President of the United States wallowing in victimhood on stage.
And the American people, because they're always going to be there for you. I went through a very tough time with some very radicalized, sick people. And I say I was investigated more than the great, late Alphonse Capone. Alphonse Capone was a monster. He was a very hardened criminal. I went through more investigations than Alphonse Capone. And now I'm talking to you as president. Can you believe this? Can you believe it? So you got to fight hard. You got to never give
It sounds like 15 people clapped.
up, and don't let bad people take you down. You got to let them. You got to take them down. Got a lot of bad people out there, and those people you have to figure it out. But you also have a lot of great people. Finally, hold on to your culture and your traditions, because that's what makes something really great, and that's what's made the Army great: the culture and the tradition.
Here's the thing. You don't get credit for being investigated and prosecuted more than Al Capone if you committed more crimes than Al Capone.
But he was investigated and prosecuted by other criminals. When you have the government investigating and prosecuting other agents of government, it kind of doesn't count. It'd be like the Genovese or the Gambino family investigating the Capone family. It doesn't count. You guys are both criminals. It'd be like the NYPD investigating the LAPD. It doesn't count. You are both criminal organizations. It'd be like the European Central Bank investigating the Federal Reserve Bank. It doesn't count. You guys are all in the same bed together. But the Brian Tyler Cohens of this world and the Dave Pacmans and the propagandists on the right actually think it does count. It doesn't. What does count is truth. What does count is morality and integrity. There is no truth or morality or integrity in the halls of Congress. None of it can be found in Washington's District of Criminals. And yet these guys are still earning their keep by promoting the same things over and over, expecting that you expect a different result. I think these people know better.
That these investigations happened in a vacuum, as opposed to the fact that all of them were well supported enough to warrant grand jury indictments and, in one instance, guilty verdicts from a jury of his peers, a jury that was approved by his attorneys, by the way, on every count he was charged with.
He cooked his own books. So what, Brian? So what? Can we talk about the $6.2 trillion CARES package that Trump signed? Oh, that's right. You don't talk about that because Biden did virtually the same thing, turning around doing the same stimulus nonsense. Can we talk about Obama hooking up with the Zio International Banking Cartel to do the TARP bailout? Oh, that's right. You don't talk about that either because Obama was your mascot.
All of which he got away with because he was elected president. He's trying to claim that he's the victim of an unjust judicial system when in fact, him getting away with his crimes is precisely why it is an unjust judicial system. And yet still that won't prevent him from bitching and complaining on stage every chance he gets, even as president of the United States. Anyway, here's to hoping that these graduates at West Point display the integrity, the dignity, and the honor that Donald Trump is incapable of. The future of our country depends on a next generation of leadership that recoils at the self-serving, power-hungry politics that Trump and his minions employ on a daily basis.
Self-serving, power-hungry politics. Hey, Brian, that's all of politics. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. D next to the name, check. R next to the name, check. Congressman, check. Senator, check. President, check. Vice president, all the way down the line, Brian. And this is the politics you're pushing. You're trying to push democratic socialism. You are part of the problem instead of stepping back and stepping outside of that corrupt political bubble and being a part of the solution. I really appreciate everybody who signed on as a member recently. I think we have like 20 members now. I really appreciate that. Did not expect that at all. If you like this channel, if you like this content, you can support this channel for free by liking and sharing this video. If you want to go above and beyond that, become a channel member or go to my links in the description. We have Cash App and we have Patreon and you can support there. I will never be supported by anybody else but you. And I'm not even saying that I'm beholden to you. I am beholden to truth and to integrity and to individual freedoms, wherever that may be, wherever that may lead. And like the founding fathers said, I'd rather have dangerous freedom than peaceful slavery. If you're on board with that and you want to support, I really, really appreciate it. I will see you in the next video.